welcome to another episode of Behind the Bench series from the AMR and One Health Lab at Queen's University Belfast. Today I've got Leah again. So Leah Taylor is one of our very fantastic PhD students who is almost finishing her PhD, and you would have heard from Leah last week. Welcome, Leah.
Hi, thank you. It's really nice to be here.
Good. And how has your day been?
Yeah, it's really good. Busy as always and very warm.
Well, you are not looking at all like you're busy. You look so refreshed, which is good. I'm glad to see. So, Leah, today we just want to learn a little bit more about your experience as a PhD student. I'm sure you can't wait to share with us what that looks like. So, can you remind us again what your PhD is about, Leah, for those people who are just catching up for the first time?
Yeah. Okay, so as in the Kennedys, I'm Leah. So my PhD project looks at antimicrobial resistance in dairy cattle. Specifically, I look at colostrum, the vital first feed that a calf will get and once they're born. And I kind of want to see also kind of what impact colostrum has on the microbiome and the resistance profile of dairy calves up into weaning age.
For the people who don't know what colostrum is, you already said that's the first milk. And I think as a mother, I understand the importance of colostrum and how it is very useful for helping to build the immune system in a baby. And I suppose that's the same thing with a cow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very interesting project that you're following the life of this calf when it is born, up until when it is weaned, and looking at how their diet and their first milk affects, say, disease outcomes, growth, gut microbiome, as well as the antimicrobial resistance burden and carriage in their gut. Can you take us back just a little bit to the beginning and tell us, how did you plan all of these experiments and what went into it?
Okay. Yeah, great. So you're right, it is a very interesting area to look at, and it's definitely something that I think at the very start when I applied, I don't think I would imagine I'd done a lot of the stuff that I had done now. Firstly, once I got the brief for the PhD, I kind of sat down and thought about what would be the best way at kind of organising how to achieve the aims hypothesis. So for the project that I was doing, obviously the idea is that colostrum will have an impact on the calf resistant microbiome throughout the pre-weaning period. So that would require getting like cow and calf pairs to be able to collect samples from them to be able to do the study. So at that point, then I started off with looking. I got introduced to some vets who are really helpful, and we met them and sat down with them to discuss how we might go about doing this. So we I discussed with them how maybe sampling of these animals would take place and how we can recruit the farmers. And I think they decided, first of all, you need like a questionnaire, a flyer, sampling protocol that would meet the ethics. So I had to fill out all the ethical approval as well. And they said they helped us recruiting the farms, and then we got to go and meet with the farmers, and they were really friendly and very helpful and happy to kind of explain their processes and kind of help with what calves, down calf pairs, could be a possibility for the study.
Yeah. So while you were on the farm, then did you enjoy being on the farm?
Oh yeah, it's very different to being in the office. It was nice to get out there and speak to the farmers and get to the animals. And there's actually one interesting day where we went down to sample, and they were actually assisting a cow in calving, and I got to see that as well, which is definitely a new experience for me.
You got to see a real life baby coming out of a cow.
Yeah, it's definitely a different experience, but it's really, really interesting to see. And again, one of those things that at the start I would never have known that I'd be on the farm to that degree and be able to see that. So it's really good.
Doesn't it just feel great to put on your farming boots and put on your overalls and go on the farm, and you almost go into a different kind of persona, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a very different place to be, and it's just nice to, it's kind of, I think it's one of those things as well. At first you kind of, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot more work than you expect trying to get all the samples, and it's nice that you can kind of turn and say, oh, I got these samples and I was able to work on them myself, and it's quite a different experience.
Yeah. So once you got your samples then back into the lab, what did you do with them? What were you aiming to do with those samples?
Yeah, so I think at first I kind of obviously making sure you've stored them correctly and they're all aliquoted is pretty key for any further analysis you want to do. So I wanted to look at how I had a couple of different project chapters. So the colostrum from those sample sets I was able to kind of use for different analysis where I looked at the quality of the colostrum and if there's a core microbiome associated with the quality. So one of the first things I did was check the quality with a Brix device. And this kind of literature would say this 22% on this device kind of indicates better quality colostrum that is sufficient to be fed to calves. So that's the threshold I used there. And following on from that, I was able to do further analysis because that was kind of one of the key cornerstones for a lot of things that I wanted to do. So yeah, a lot of that was then onto DNA extractions of the samples. Some got sent for sequencing to look at the microbiome. Some I would culture then to do susceptibility work as well.
Okay, so you were testing for any organisms that you would have found and seeing how they respond to antibiotics. So, Leah, can you tell us then a challenge that you have faced during your PhD and how you overcame it? Yeah?
Yeah, okay. It's definitely been a fair few. It's things don't often go as planned. That's what I want to say. There's always something to come around. So I think one of them is actually outside the lab. So I find bioinformatics particularly challenging, and I'd say quite a lot of wet biologists would feel the same way. It's definitely one of those things that you need to sit with it for quite a while to understand it. But I feel a little bit better about kind of looking at my data now because I had the opportunity to go to quite a lot of training courses. And that's the thing about there's so many opportunities for like training that someone will pass your way, and it's always good to avail those because they will come in handy. And I've also had great experience with postdocs and other PhD students as well. Maybe they're more bioinformatics based, and they've very kindly sat with me and me for an hour and explained, oh, this is how this software works. These are what these commands might mean. And that's just been very, very helpful. I've been very fortunate for that.
Yeah. So I suppose bioinformatics is one of those ones that scare people whenever they hear for the first time that, oh, you're going to be doing, you're going to be working with microbiome data. And it can be scary, especially when you think about the fact that you're working with a high performance computing system where you're worried that you might break something up there in the cloud. But actually, I don't think you can break anything up there. The worst thing that can happen is that your data will not run because you've done something wrong. You don't have enough memory.
It's always fun.
But I think bioinformatics is one of those show and tell type of things that you need somebody to show you, or you need to sit by yourself. So you learn by doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you grow more confident once you start to understand. So, well, that sounds exciting. It looks like you are now a guru in this. And when I throw any microbiome data sets at you, you're going to help me smash it up. Is that right?
Well, I'm definitely more confident now than I was at the beginning. I definitely have a better understanding now. There's probably quite a lot more for me to learn, but I do find I enjoy it a bit better now that I understand it.
Excellent. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the wonderful things that you've done with your own 16S data. Would you say then that based on all of the things that you've been saying, that there are any skills that you've picked up along the way, and how have you got better in with walking since you started the PhD? Has there been any progress? Has it been better?
I was thinking about that recently. I can definitely see a lot of progress better, even in the last couple of months. Just when it comes to doing any sort of lab experiments or using different machinery, I'd say my confidence has grown quite a lot. I definitely feel like I pick up a lot of those skills quicker now.
Yes. You're a forever planner, aren't you? You are a perfectionist.
I like a good plan.
You will plan and plan and plan again, and I keep saying, get in there and just do it.
But definitely. I always think as well, because I was always a bit of advice I was always gave, you don't have a plan, you can't change it. So
So I think it's one thing that I really like about you is the fact that you take your time to plan but I almost want to push you to be like, okay, yes, now you've planned, go and see how it works. Because then you can refine the plan. You cannot forever stay in a state of planning.
Yeah, that's very true. And I
yes.
think it's a good way to look at it. Sometimes you kind of plan to get like the perfect experiment, and it's not always possible. There's always going to be something that pops up that maybe you didn't expect, or maybe something hasn't quite worked the first time around.
But it's good to have a plan because you have a place to start from. But it's making sure that you actually go and try it out and see. And I think sometimes students have this tendency to want to do everything at once and get it all at once perfectly. If that happens, wonderful. But otherwise, sometimes I think you've planned, go and start with a little bit and see your capabilities and see how you're getting on. And then say you have 500 samples to work with. There's nothing to say you have to do all of them in one day. You can start with a handful, right? And see how you get on. And then afterwards you can be like, okay, I can make this more high throughput. I can optimize this. So I think that's something to learn from this PhD. Well done. I'm glad to hear that you're being more of a tactical and efficient executioner. Leah, you're now almost at the end of your PhD. You're at that point where you're finishing your last bits of experiments so that you can actually finish drafting your thesis and hand it in. What would you advise, looking back now, to anybody who is thinking about doing a PhD or those who are now doing their PhD and maybe just starting?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, obviously PhD is very hard, and I think a lot of people can understand that. But it is a really enjoyable and I think worthwhile experience. Like I said, I think I touched on a few times, there's just so many things that I feel like I've learned, and I think even inside the lab, outside the lab, I feel like I'm more confident now in doing a lot of things through all the opportunities that I've got doing the PhD. I think something, if I pass on to somebody who's just starting their PhD now, is that sort of initial time in the beginning. I think it's really important to think about your project and think about the aims and hypothesis and how maybe you want to go about addressing those areas, and what experiments you have to do. Is it feasible in the time? Time goes a lot quicker than you expect when you're doing experiments in the lab. Yeah, so I think for me, like I said, because I am such a thinker about things, I think that it took quite a lot of planning. There's definitely times where I looked at the amount, because I had quite a lot of samples. I think I had maybe 300-400 samples at a time, and there's some of the experiments required quite a lot of sample on the go. And I think that kind of there are definitely times where, like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get this experiment done in time. I think taking the time to maybe speak to supervisors or kind of come up with a workflow, like a weekly workflow, almost like a checklist for the experiments, definitely helped me. And to be like, oh, at the end of the week, I want to get these things done. And kind of repeat this cycle for a couple of weeks until the experiment's finished. And that was very helpful. And also bouncing the ideas off of other PhD students as well, especially in the lab group. And that's a really nice part. It's kind of because even if they're not quite doing the same sort of work as you, or the research not quite in the same area, they still might have similarities in their experiments, or they might have an idea and have you tried looking at it this way? Have you tried using this instrument instead? Which I think has been really helpful as well. And that's definitely some ways that I've kind of navigated how to get the work done in a set amount of time.
And then sometimes you might say, I'm going to get this done by the end of this week, and something will come up and it doesn't happen. So how do you deal with that?
I think in those moments, it's just you just take a second and think, okay, you didn't get this done this week, but you will get it done. And if you have to knock something back a day or maybe start fresh a week later, that's fine. And sometimes it's good to take a step back and go, okay, this is what I've done, this is what's left. This didn't work out today, but we can start tomorrow, or we can maybe sit back and prepare this again and then try the experiment again.
I think when I'm listening to you there and kind of remembering how important it is to look after ourselves as well, because you're in this PhD, it's all consuming, it's everything that you're doing, you're trying to get a degree out of it, you're enjoying the research, but it's a lot of work. Some of it is a lot of menial tasks that you have to do, like labeling 1,000 tubes at once. But taking a step back, how did you how did you balance looking after yourself and making sure that you're okay? And because obviously you have a life, you have family, you have others. How did you balance that? What helped you?
I think a few different things. I think, very much you can talk to your supervisor, your lab members, family members are definitely, and friends are big support. Finding hobbies and things to do outside of that, and then you can kind of communicate with them.
Hobbies.
Yeah.
What's your hobby?
My biggest hobby is, this will come up somewhere. My biggest hobby is horse riding. Yeah.
Horse riding.
Yeah.
Oh my days. How often do you horse ride?
Every weekend.
Every
Yeah.
weekend. So that helps you take your mind away from
Definitely.
things.
And
And aren't you scared of horse riding?
Not at all. It probably seems a bit strange, but yeah, it's definitely a nice way to decompress outside the lab. And funnily enough, sometimes the skills overlap where you do things, and weirdly enough,
What skills overlap in horse riding and being in the lab?
because sometimes things take a lot of planning or thought, or you could be doing something that we do quite often is so say in science you have to communicate your work across to somebody, and you need to start from a level that makes sense to them. You can't just start from 100. And that's the same with in the horse riding. It's like, okay, how would you go about doing this activity, or what the skill, and you have to start from the beginning, and it's quite a good way to learn how to express.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that you find something interesting to do. So perhaps you might start researching horses now very soon. It's been lovely to have you today. I believe next week you will be telling us a little bit more. You'll be taking us through the lab and what some of the things that you do in the lab.
Yeah.
So please do come back and listen to Leah and watch Leah show you some of the skills and some of the very complicated and amazing instruments that she's been using in the lab and learning to work with. So thank you so much for joining us today, and see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.